us now watch the testimonies of other resource persons in this committee hearing. Next is an American, Mr. Stephen Wood, who provided assistance to other foreign nationals from these alleged abuses in the United States.
I'd like to quickly ask Mr. Stephen Wood, an American advocate who has provided assistance to some of our victim survivors. Sir, thank you for joining us, for taking the trouble to come to our hearing in our country.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, sir. Could I please ask you to confirm that there were Ukrainian individuals who fled the KJC because they were subjected to abuse? Is it true that you and your Filipino wife provided shelter to them?
That's correct.
Thank you so much, sir, for that help that you've given to our fellow Filipinos, to our fellow women, the Ukrainian women. Now, how did they reach out to you, and how did you confirm their stories at first?
I have been aware of Quiboloy's church since 2015 and have had many conversations with people who are involved in the kingdom. And over time, more people reached out to me from my outreach, and eventually I was told about some victims in Brazil and Ukraine.
Brazil.
And I was given some phone numbers, and I reached out to them and asked them what I could do to help them. Many were afraid to move forward, but one couple in Ukraine, she had been a pastoral and had sought to get permission to marry, and was denied by Quiboloy because she was a pastoral, and he said that she could never marry anybody but him. And they fled to Estonia, where they were in hiding from everybody. At the time, the church was actively seeking to find them. And I contacted the FBI in the U.S., and the chief investigator for the FBI was very helpful in vetting their story and making sure that they were legit. And in doing so, I chose to raise the money and get them tickets to come out of Estonia to the U.S. at the beginning of 2022.
Well, thank you so much for not just your response to the question, but also the facts included in your response of the many ways in which you helped and sought to help these victim survivors. You mentioned that some of those who fled first to Estonia were being actively pursued by the members of Quiboloy. Did you yourselves, you the couple, receive any threats from Quiboloy with regards to the assistance you rendered?
Yeah, it was a badge of honor for me when he mentioned me on his television show and threatened me, said I had committed cyber libel and that his 17 lawyers, he mentioned my town where I lived, told me he knew where I lived, and he said his lawyers were working to bring charges against me, and he told me to get a lawyer.
It seems cyber libel is a favored weapon against Miss Amanda, against you.
Yeah, the only thing I wasn't guilty of was blaspheming and adultery, I guess.
Well, he hasn't gotten to that yet. I don't thank God. And you also mentioned, aside from the Ukraine, of course, the U.S., you mentioned Brazil, and yes, Estonia. So this seems to be not just a Philippine or a U.S. problem, and it has aspects of being an international problem. What is your motivation for helping the victim survivors of Quiboloy?
That's a great question. I have 3 children and I have 12 grandchildren, and I claim to be, I tell people I pretend to be a Christian because I'm practicing and I don't get it right most of the time. But if a child or a woman tells me that she has been raped by somebody, it is my duty to find out if it's true, if it's possibly true, how I can help. I couldn't imagine not responding to that request for help.
Thank you. And your answer is also relevant because, as Ms. Amanda said, minors are also being victimized in this way. Aside from mature women being victimized in this way, minors as well.
We helped a victim who was raped at the age, or accused of raping at the age of 10 from Ukraine. And I spoke to her mother many times, and they didn't want to get involved. And they finally did. They're in the U.S. safely now.
Thank God for that. And lastly, sir, I have information that Quiboloy is still making his followers beg in the streets. And apparently this begging is going on internationally. So this type of abuse as well. Do you have knowledge about this, for example, in the United States?
I have examples in my own city. Nashville, Tennessee is a big city in the South, and we have solicitors coming around with fake charities, asking for money. They're Filipino. Stands out in the community of Caucasians, and they live with a family in Nashville. And I've been by the house many times trying to see if I could see anybody catch them. But yes, they're locally there and in Clarksville. They have a church in Clarksville, but I think that's been closed down when the U.S. seized all the assets of the KJC.
I see. Thank you so much, sir. And also for mentioning the seizure of the assets of the KJC in the United States, and also mentioning the FBI earlier. I think during the hearing we'll also have the occasion to follow up on these points about the extent of the problem and also the extent of the responses needed to assist and help rehabilitate the victim survivors in whatever country they have been victimized. Thank you very much, Mr. Wood.
I'll say one more thing.
Please.
I don't have high expectations of justice being brought in the United States because I think that the United States has very little vested interest in foreign victims. The only real chance I see that these victims have, like the brave woman to my left, I think the only real chance they have are the people in this room who are in positions of authority. And I only ask one thing, and that's I beg you to dig deep and look at the evidence. Dig the evidence up. If you find it, if you put it all together, it will tell a big story.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. That is what the committee intends to do. Thank you very much again for speaking to us this morning.
Did you watch Mr. Wood's testimony in full? What can you say? We gently remind everyone that in civilized societies all over the globe, everybody is presumed innocent until proven otherwise in the court of law.